And towns mount a COVID comeback.
We're not sure what the new normal is, but this money's going to help us get there.
Public transit will get a big slice of the federal finances. We'll explain the 5 billion reasons why the province is allowed to let Ottawa decide how the money will be spent.
I look forward to seeing them play, even if it's in an empty stadium.
The province approves the Jays to return to play the regular season at the Rogers Centre. Why the team isn't celebrating just yet.
It made me feel my heart was getting bigger and bigger.
And the labor of love now on the move after making waves in a Toronto neighborhood. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. We begin tonight with the multi-billion-dollar deal between the provinces and the federal government to help towns and cities struggling with the pandemic. The feds agreed to provide more money than originally pledged, but in exchange, they get more control over how it's spent. Angelina King is live tonight outside City Hall. And Angelina, local leaders sounding encouraged by the plan tonight.
They did, and we know that both the Premier and Mayor have been pleading for additional money throughout the pandemic. Doug Ford says Ontario has a $23 billion problem thanks to COVID-19. And Mayor John Tory has said that the city is dealing with a projected $1.3 billion deficit. And while this new money won't completely offset those costs, both of them say that it will certainly help. And both seemed rather happy when they talked about the announcement from the Prime Minister today.
COVID-19 isn't just a health crisis, it's an economic crisis, too.
The Prime Minister pledging $19 billion to help provincial and municipal governments over the next 6 to 8 months as they continue to reopen and prepare for a possible second wave of COVID-19. Ontario will get $7 billion.
This is good. This is great, actually. Not even good. This is a great deal for Canada, and it's a great deal for Ontario.
That deal coming after weeks of challenging negotiations over the total dollar amount and flexibility for provinces when it comes to how the money is spent. In the end, Ottawa came up by $5 billion, and provinces agreed to spend the money on priorities laid out by the feds.
And this historic agreement proves what we can do as a nation when we stand united.
Municipalities will also see some money, but no word on how much Toronto will get just yet. But transit is a sure thing. The feds will match any new funding up to $1.8 million that provinces and municipalities put toward public transit. Good news for the TTC.
I got to tell you, I'm thrilled. We're not sure what the new normal is, but this money's going to help us get there.
The head of the TTC says at the beginning of the pandemic, it was operating at about 15%, losing as much as $21 million a week. It's since cut those losses in half, but is expecting reduced ridership will continue next year. The mayor staring down a projected $1.3 billion shortfall, saying this might help prevent cuts and increases to property tax.
I just think it'll help us with a wide range of our problems and will hopefully go a long way to making sure that the kinds of cuts or tax increases that had been discussed will be minimized or perhaps eliminated. But again, until the allocations are done quite precisely and until we see all the sort of fine print, as it were, it's premature for me to declare victory. But I will just say this is a very solid step forward.
The mayor says the city should know how much money it will be getting before a city council meeting that's scheduled for the end of the month. It's expected that a report will be tabled looking at just how much money there will be, how helpful it will be, and what kind of challenges the city will be dealing with come next year. Chris?
Thanks, Angelina. The mayor and the premier also happily talking about baseball today. The provincial government approved the Blue Jays to play the regular season at the Rogers Centre.
I look forward to seeing them play, even if it's in an empty stadium. I think we need, a little bit of sports back on television, and I can't wait to watch the Blue Jays, and I can't wait to watch the Maple Leafs win the Stanley Cup, because they're going to be playing here as well.
Bold prediction there. The province says after discussions between federal and local public health officers, the province will allow the team to play on home turf, even though other teams and players would be traveling from the U.S., where many states are dealing with spiraling outbreaks of the coronavirus. But to play safely amid a pandemic, 150 pages of COVID-19 related protocols will have to be followed. Mayor John Tory is on board too.
Believe that what has been done here by way of that very extensive document will make sure everybody is kept safe. And if that is the case, then I don't know why we wouldn't be happy to see our Blue Jays, Canada's team, Toronto's team, playing in their own home stadium.
So here's the wrinkle, though. The federal government still must approve this before the MLB is technically allowed to play in Toronto. And in a statement to CBC tonight, Health Canada says it is still reviewing arrangements. To Halliburton now, and the latest on the investigation into a deadly police shooting. It began yesterday as a dispute about wearing a mask at a local grocery store and ended with the OPP fatally shooting a 73-year-old man. People in the community today saying they are shocked by the violence.
Most of the time, I don't think there's too many problems.
Just very quiet. Things like this you don't think happen in a place like this.
40 kilometers away from that grocery store, evidence markers show the aftermath of the deadly shooting. The SIU says 2 officers fired their guns. Those weapons, along with a pistol and a semi-automatic rifle from the scene, have been taken into evidence. The SIU still hasn't released the suspect's name as investigators are trying to locate his next of kin. For more now, joining us from Halliburton is Garfield Munshaw. He lives next to the man who died. Garfield, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
No problem.
So, Garfield, what can you tell us about your neighbor?
He was a very quiet, like a recluse. He didn't mix with anybody here at all. We all tried to, he's a new man in town, but he just wanted nothing to do with anybody. He just wanted to be by himself.
Now, from your vantage point next to his house, what did you see and hear happen yesterday morning?
Okay, I was in my house and I heard some gunshots, about, I'd say 9:30, something like that. 2 loud rifles, sounded like rifle shots. And then I went down to check and see what it was. And the police were set up outside my driveway with the spike belt, and there was 2 uniformed police there with rifles pointed down towards the gentleman's house. And I just came back up, and they said, "Go back up and lock your doors. We have an active shooter." And that was it. And about 15 minutes later, we heard a number of shots, and that was it. It went quiet after that.
That must have been so scary for you and your family, and such an extraordinary thing to happen. How are people in your town doing today as they digest all of this news?
I've had a million phone calls. People can't believe it. You don't expect that here. We're a very quiet area, and it's just one big family down by the lake here, and this fella just did not fit, so everybody left him alone. He was on his own there. And it's kind of sad when you think about it.
Certainly, and certainly knowing how this story has ended here. Well, thank you very much for spending some time with us this evening. We really appreciate it, Garfield. And that is Garfield Munshaw. He lives next to the man whose death at the hands of police is now under investigation by the police watchdog. To Mississauga now, and police have charged a man in connection with a confrontation at a grocery store that was caught on camera. It happened earlier this month at a T&T supermarket. A man was asked by store employees to put on a mask. He got upset and began yelling at them. In the video, a man is heard making comments about the origins of the coronavirus and tells an employee to go back to China. 48-year-old John McCash of Mississauga turned himself into police today. Investigators say he is facing a charge of causing a disturbance. And the SIU has charged a former Peel police officer for shooting a Mississauga woman at her home on Mother's Day. This comes the same day as a rally was held outside Peel Police headquarters in support of the woman who was shot.
Weirdly enough, the shock from it kind of calmed me, and enough to ask her repeatedly why this happened, and there's, to this day, no response. I don't know to this day why this has happened to me, and that's why we're here. We're angry.
Police were responding to a domestic call at 34-year-old Chantal Krupke's home in May. Krupke says the situation escalated quickly, and both her and her partner were tased. Krupke was also shot in the abdomen. 2 weeks after the incident, police charged Krupke with possessing more than 50 grams of cannabis, something she and protesters say was done to justify the force that was used against her in May. Valerie Brifa resigned from Peel Police soon after. Today, the SIU has charged her with criminal negligence causing bodily harm, assault with a weapon, and careless use of a firearm. Next up, the future of Toronto Police. The Police Services Board has now completed their public consultations on reforming the service. But as Ali Chiasson shows us, protesters already aren't feeling fully listened to.
No justice, no peace, abolish the police.
Another day, another protest. Why? Because despite the rallies, marches, and sit-ins, protesters are not convinced they're being taken seriously. Even in these police board town halls with the mayor, which wrap up today.
It's a performance. It's a way for the police services board to say, well, we did offer people an opportunity to come to us and talk to us.
The group No Pride in Policing, along with Black Lives Matter and other supporters, reiterated their demands their own way.
Defund, demilitarize, and abolish the police.
Meanwhile, Mayor John Tory and the rest of the Toronto Police Board heard public deputations about police reform.
If there was a number one thing you could name to try and change, the police culture.
Here's an exchange with the mayor and the lawyer for Regis Korchinski-Paquette's family, the 29-year-old woman who fell from her balcony while police were in her home in May.
The number one thing you would say we had to sort of focus ourselves on in terms of changing that culture.
Thank you, Mayor Tory. The number one thing I would say is accountability. If police officers were to lose their jobs for misconduct, I believe the majority of the good police officers and the police officers on the force would not risk losing such an honorable career.
Toronto City Council voted to roll out the use of police-worn body cameras as a means of accountability. Protesters don't see that as a concession.
We are going to fight them on that because that $5 to $8 million should not go to the police. We need that money to go to the community.
As the police board meetings come to an end this week and recommendations are drawn from them, rallies like these are going to continue, proving they're not for nothing.
What is it like standing here with all these people around?
It's encouraging and painful, like thrilling and excruciating. Right, because we're witnessing brilliance, we're witnessing new ideas, we're witnessing possibilities. Why we're here is because we keep dying.
We have lots of reasons to be angry here today.
Yes.
We also have reasons to be hopeful. The protests that have happened around the world against anti-black racism and against police violence and murder have given us hope that we can actually build a world without the police.
Ali Chiasson, CBC News, Toronto.
A bit further south of police headquarters, and this is the scene today. A construction crane collapsed onto a building near Wellington and Simcoe Streets just before 10 this morning, prompting the evacuation of 4 buildings. And it's still there tonight. Crews will continue to dismantle it in the morning. Luckily, no one was injured, including the crane operator, but it backed up traffic in the area all day with the closure of nearby streets. People camping out in Moss Park remain defiant tonight, refusing to leave even after being served with an eviction notice from the city. Lorenda Redekop explains what they want.
Come on in, boss.
Derek Black says he's lived here for the past 5 months with his partner. Yesterday, the city left them a notice asking them to clear all their belongings by 1 p.m. today.
If I'm not getting a house, I'm not moving. I'm going down with a fight. If I have to go to jail for this, I'm going.
They say the city had previously offered them a spot in a hotel, but far from downtown, and say others who've moved from tents to hotels report restrictions, similar to shelters and no visitors.
No, I don't want a hotel because I have family.
And there's a virus.
I need my family to come and see here. Plus, there's a virus here.
There's a virus.
No,
it's scary.
I know we're free.
Police and city workers started clearing garbage and hauling away items, but didn't move anyone out. The city says since Sunday, it's moved 140 people from this park into hotels, and it's looking for permanent housing. The couple is represented by a lawyer who wrote to the city that it's operating against its own parks bylaw.
The city is required to give 72 hours notice if they want to remove people's possessions forcibly from a park setting.
The city solicitor responded to him in a letter saying she disagrees with his interpretation and calls it a health and safety concern.
They can't lean on this, a claim that this is a health and safety problem. If there's any health and safety concern, it's that residents here don't have access to water, they don't have access to sanitation supplies.
For months during the pandemic, the city stopped clearing encampments, but more recently that resumed. The city says it made a new offer today to his clients, a room at a downtown hotel.
I would take a hotel, but it's got to be permanent. I don't want to be restricted. That's all. I don't want to be restricted.
The city says a dozen people here today refused their offers. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
Still ahead, the Best Dad Award definitely goes to this guy. Check out the pirate ship he made for his kids to keep them active and entertained during the pandemic. The city, though, isn't on board with it. We'll tell you why in just a few minutes. Plus,
heat warnings in place for the GTA as the humid X exceeds 40 this weekend. Your full forecast after the break.
The weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
Welcome back. Time now for a quick check on the weather forecast with meteorologist Nick Cernkovich. And Nick, it was a soggy day in Toronto today, but things are looking drier for at least the start of the weekend, right?
Chris, the story heading into this weekend is going to be the heat and the humidity, as heat warnings are in effect for the GTA. That issued by Environment Canada earlier today. Our weather headlines: we've got showers clearing out, heat warnings, as I mentioned, in place. We're going to talk about that in the long-range forecast. And it will be a sunny end to the week. In fact, a sunny start to the weekend as well. Talking about those heat warnings, there's a look at what we can expect. These are in place right now, although they might be expanded by Environment Canada as we head through the next day or so. Now, heat warnings, meaning that the temperatures in this case will be above 30 or thereabouts, the overnight lows above 20, and the humidex values above 40, and we're going to meet all of those criteria. Temperatures today hit 25 degrees, although it was a bit cloudy. With the humidex, though, it felt like 33 or 34 in the GTA. Showers clearing out this through the overnight. A little bit of fog, though, developing through the overnight. We'll see some morning fog patches, but those should burn off pretty quickly. By tomorrow afternoon, we've got straight sunshine across the board, and clear skies continue right into Saturday as well. So that sunshine is going to help to heat things up. And of course, we've got the humidity making things feel even hotter. There's a look at your forecast heading into Saturday. Sunday, we've got some rain showers to talk about, but we'll get to that in the long-range forecast. Overnight tonight in southwestern Ontario, temperatures about 21 degrees. Fog patches developing across the region. By tomorrow, we're looking at highs in the 30s. Humidex values in southwestern Ontario up to 40 by tomorrow, lagging a little bit across the Golden Horseshoe, but really not by that much. I'll show you that in just a second here. For tonight, rain showers clearing out, then fog patches developing across the region. Temperatures at 20 degrees through the overnight. By the time we hit tomorrow afternoon, we're looking at highs of about 30, 31 degrees, depending on where you are. But the humidex just a couple points lower than what it is in southwestern Ontario. We're still waiting for some of that humidity to make its way in, but it will, and very quickly at that. So humidex values, there's your sort of headline, 40 plus through till Monday. In fact, Saturday, we're looking at humidex values in the range of about 40, 41. Same story for Sunday as well. We've got some afternoon showers on Sunday. Not a big rainfall event, but afternoon showers and the risk of a thunderstorm. Cloud cover on Monday, bit of a cool down and showers on Tuesday. So this looks to be a 4-day event in terms of that heat warning. Chris.
All right, sounds good. We will be ready. And we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have this one.
This ship right here is a labor of love from a father to his kids in the time of COVID-19. But a complaint brought city officials to their doorstep. I'll bring you that story in a little bit.
Welcome back. Finally for us tonight, a bit of a shipwreck to tell you about. A family in Scarborough is being forced to move a backyard pirate ship play structure that also doubles as a swimming pool. The city stepped in after a neighbor complained. But as Katerina Georgieva reports, the family's two sons, they are definitely seeing the bigger picture.
It's horrible. So happy.
This was the family's dream for this pirate ship, which also acts as a pool. Kids happy, family together. A labor of love built by a father for his kids to bring about some joy during the pandemic.
COVID-19 has done a lot of damage to everybody, I guess, and everybody with the kids especially, because it's very hard to try to keep them busy and try to get them out of the house.
Konstantinidis normally runs a pita restaurant, but he was in the middle of switching locations when the pandemic hit. Now that's on hold.
This is very rare for me to be able to be at home for this long and not working. Usually I work 7 days a week.
More time with family, the one positive to come from all of this.
I can't really say it was very difficult.
So he spent 2 months building this for them, out of skids, complete with an anchor and a hearn. They were able to enjoy it for about a week.
But then a complaint from a neighbor brought city officials to the home.
We were sort of shocked because we didn't think it was an issue.
The biggest problem was that the structure was too close to this fence. City officials say, given the size of the ship, the family needed a building permit. They add that this kind of pool also needs to be properly fenced in and moved back. The family says officers also asked them to empty the pool on the spot.
That's when, the kids went crazy. Bowling and this and that. They were very sad about it. Kids always tend to be victims in such situations.
When I heard that we have to empty the water and stuff, it made me heartbroken.
But Konstantinidis is willing to do what needs to be done.
The family's already started dismantling the ship, as you can see. They have to move it over a meter away from the property line. So the stern is already moved, with the center and front still needing to go.
The fact that their dad is doing all of this for them is not lost on the boys.
It made me very happy. It made me feel nice, and it made me feel my heart was getting bigger and bigger.
Konstantinidis has more work in the days and weeks ahead, but he hopes to get everything back up and running soon. He says the biggest lesson learned is to always do his homework when building something in the backyard. Katerina Georgieva, CBC News, Toronto.
What a sweet story. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you can get caught up on the day's news anytime by heading to our website, cbc.ca/Toronto. And Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night.